Until you bring the unconscious into the light, it will guide your every move, and you'll call it fate. Let that truth settle deep in your heart, my friends. Because when it comes to connection, desire, the subtle dance between masculine and feminine energies, most of us have been walking with our eyes closed, wondering why we keep crashing. Have you ever noticed that the more you pursue a man, the quicker he seems to forget you? That's no coincidence. That's not misalignment or bad timing. That's not because you're too intense or not enough. That's human psychology. That's the hidden mind in motion. And today we're not going to avoid it. We're going to walk straight through it, not to get burned, but to evolve. Before we go further, press that like button, hit subscribe, and don't do it for me. Do it for the version of you who's tired of being unseen while giving everything. Because what we're about to explore doesn't just shift your love life, it rewires how you show up in it. Now picture this with me. You're walking through a quiet museum. The space is still. Every wall is filled with stunning portraits, flawless smiles, polished frames, each one saying, "Look at me." But off in the corner, one single canvas, unfinished, just a bold, raw, imperfect stroke. And somehow, that's the one you can't stop staring at. Why? Because perfection is forgettable. But mystery, it invites curiosity. Most women were taught to become the whole picture. Be pleasant, be composed, be lovable. But here's the truth no one teaches. Love doesn't root itself in perfection. It roots in presence. Let me offer you something most people won't. A man's deepest love doesn't reside in his rational mind. It lives in the unseen places, the parts of him even he doesn't fully understand, the corners he rarely shows, the part that aches to feel like he matters, but doesn't dare admit it. That's his ego. That's his unconscious. And if you've ever touched that place in him, even by accident, know this: you are not alone. Every man wears armor, and beneath that armor, a wound, a silent buried fear that he's not good enough, not really wanted, not truly admired. And here's the beautiful paradox. The women he connects to the most aren't the ones who avoid that pain. They're the ones who recognize it, who see it, who speak to it without ever needing to call it out. This isn't manipulation, this isn't some trick to pull him back in. This is emotional alchemy, the kind of transformation that begins the moment you stop fixing and start reflecting. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself fully." And yet, that's where every real connection begins, with truth, with self-ownership, with the courage to stop performing and start showing up. So if he's retreated, if he feels wounded and has gone cold, if you've been trying harder, giving more, softening just to get him close again, take a breath, because this isn't a moment for chasing, it's a moment of awakening. You don't need to persuade him of your worth, you need to remember it. You are not on this earth to beg for space in someone else's life. You are here to reflect something so steady, so magnetic, so rooted in the sacred feminine that even his hidden pain wants to come closer. So stay right here, because what we're about to uncover isn't just about changing how a man sees you, it's about changing how you see yourself. And once you understand how to reach the parts of him he hides from the world, you won't ever have to pursue love again. You'll become the reason it stays. Here's what they won't tell you. The ego isn't the villain, it's the gatekeeper. People will go to incredible lengths, irrational lengths, to avoid facing their own soul. Sit with that for a second, because when you trigger a man's ego, whether by speaking a truth he wasn't ready to face, pulling your energy back when he assumed you'd stay, or simply by not needing him in the way he expected, you didn't break something, you revealed something sacred. Yes, you activated pain, not because causing pain is the goal, but because pain opens the doorway. The ego, like a vault, is meant to protect. Every layer of that ego is a piece of armor forged in fear. Now imagine standing in front of that steel vault, cold, seemingly unreachable, but inside, a boy, not the man he performs to be, but the young version of him who once felt invisible, discarded, or unchosen. And what did he do in response? He built protection, through charm, through strength, through withdrawal, through anger, through success. And then, you came along and knocked on that door, maybe without knowing it, maybe just by being you. and it rattled him. Of course he stepped back. Of course he defended himself, because deep down he felt exposed. Now I know what you're asking. Did I push him too far? Is it broken now? Is he gone for good? No, you didn't ruin anything. You just got too close. That's what he's reacting to. Not your presence, but the vulnerability it evokes. That's not rejection, it's resistance. And it's not personal, it's the shadow rising. Because as Jung taught us, the shadow is made of all the parts we refuse to see in ourselves. And for most men, the idea of sharing that is alien. They were raised to achieve, to protect, to dominate. But to show pain beneath the persona, that's unfamiliar terrain. That's exposure. And that's where you come in. Not to fix, not to teach, but to reflect. Because when you touch his ego, you didn't destroy him. You reached the part of him he forgot existed. And if you can meet that moment with steadiness, not shame, you create a powerful shift. You make space for real intimacy to begin. Let me be very clear. This is not about glamorizing pain. This is not about game playing or manipulation. This is about understanding that when a man's pride is shaken, you're standing at the threshold of his truth. Most women retreat in that moment. They apologize too soon. They shrink. They start explaining, pleasing, repairing. But the women who stay calm, who hold their center, who allow silence without rushing to fill it, those women leave an imprint. Not because they hurt him, but because they didn't run from the moment after. He might pull away. He might go silent. He might even ghost for a while. But something starts to echo in his mind. She saw me, not the polished version, not the version he curates. She saw the part of him he's never had to show, and that moment becomes unforgettable. The ego is not your opponent. It's the wall you pass through to get to the soul, and the wound within it. That's where the armor falls and the real man begins to surface. Don't walk away just yet, because we're not finished. You've touched the ego. Now let's explore how to reflect his elevated self, the part of him that longs to rise, not for approval, but for purpose. Because here's the next truth. A man's love deepens where he feels worthy, not worshipped. We tend to overlook this. That which comes easily is often taken lightly. You gave your energy freely, your time, your affection, your softness, your heart. And what did he return? Silence, indifference, distance. Not because you were lacking, but because he never had to earn it. Let's be real. Here's the science behind the silence. Your heart was wide open, his mind not fully engaged, because the male brain, biologically, operates on a dopamine-driven system. It craves challenge. It locks in through pursuit, not passivity. It bonds through effort, not entitlement. When everything is handed over, there's no drive to pursue, no reason to anchor emotionally. It's not about playing hard to get, it's about understanding how bonding actually happens. Let me give you a real story. Mariana, a deeply soulful woman, came to me torn apart. I gave him everything, she said. I never turned him down. I was there every time he called, and still, he drifted. She wasn't weak, she was loving, but she made a critical mistake. She disappeared inside her devotion. And here's the truth. Devotion is sacred, but when it comes at the cost of yourself, it becomes self-erasure. Because when a man doesn't need to strive for your energy, when he doesn't feel a flicker of challenge, he doesn't root himself in the relationship. Deep love doesn't come from being available at all times. It comes from being valued. From creating space that he chooses to enter, not space that demands nothing of him. When Mariana stopped chasing, when she recentered in her own worth, everything shifted. He returned, not because she played games, but because she stopped overgiving. She became magnetic again. She was no longer offering herself on autopilot. Her energy became sacred, and he had to rise. This is the truth. Love is not the prize you get for abandoning yourself. And a man will never truly cherish what he didn't have, to step into his higher self, to hold. So if you're giving and still receiving scraps, pause. Ask yourself, am I truly being loving, or am I quietly disappearing? Because the woman who knows her value doesn't chase. She becomes the reflection of the standard that awakens the best in him. And here's the final key. Be his mirror, not to reflect his flaws, but to reflect the man he's capable of becoming. When two people meet, when their energies really collide, transformation happens. It's chemical, it's energetic, it's undeniable. And that kind of transformation, it's mutual. He doesn't fall in love just with your smile or your softness or your beauty. He falls in love with the version of himself he sees in your presence, the one who's braver, more conscious, more capable. He falls for the feeling of being a better man near you. That's the secret no one tells you. So don't dull your light to make him comfortable. Let your radiance challenge him. Let your standards stretch him. Let your self-worth call him upward. Because when a woman stands rooted in her power, she becomes unforgettable, not for what she gives, but for what she awakens. Stay with me. We're only beginning to touch the depth of what's possible when a woman stops chasing love and starts embodying it. The kind of woman who doesn't just attract a man, she calls his soul forward. And once you become that woman, love no longer needs to be hunted. It finds you and it stays. A real man doesn't fall for the woman who constantly offers him comfort, flattery, and flawless agreement. He's drawn to the woman who becomes a mirror, one that reflects not just who he is, but who he's capable of becoming. That's the soul mirror. And when you understand how to master this dynamic, when you learn to mirror his potential instead of maintaining his comfort, you become unforgettable. Carl Jung spoke about the anima, the inner feminine image residing in every man's unconscious. It's his internal compass toward love, intuition, beauty, and transformation. And here's the wild part. When he meets a woman who evokes that image, who personifies that essence, he doesn't just desire her, he attaches meaning to her, he elevates her, becomes devoted. But here's the secret. You don't awaken that inner pull by praising what's already visible. You spark it by seeing into his depths and leaving just enough mystery that he feels compelled to reach for it. Let me illustrate this for you. He tells you about a dream he once had, to write a novel, start a business, learn to play the guitar. You don't nod and say, "That's cool." You look him in the eyes and say, "I can actually see that version of you, the one who follows through on that dream. That guy, he's captivating." And then you smile. You let silence do the rest. That space between your words, that's where his transformation begins. You didn't scold him. You didn't sugarcoat anything. You reflected. You challenged with grace. The soul mirror doesn't fix him. It allows him to see himself differently, through your eyes, and feel a desire to rise. And here's the part most women overlook. When you hold that energy, not pushy, not needy, simply knowing, he starts to feel something unusual, inspired. Because deep down, every man longs to be chosen by a woman who also believes he's capable of more. And next, I'll show you how to keep him leaning in, not by giving him more access to you, but by becoming like the moon, present, yet just out of reach. If you're always there, you're no longer intriguing. Most women have been conditioned to love like the sun, constant, blazing, always available. But here's the hidden truth most don't learn until after burnout or heartbreak. Men don't fall for consistent warmth. They fall for phases, for rhythm, for wonder. The sun might offer comfort, but it can also scorch. The moon, however, it vanishes, returns, reveals itself in fragments. And somehow, we keep longing for her, even knowing she's beyond reach. That's the mystery of presence. Let's be real. How many times have you made yourself fully available, texting back instantly, never missing a call, saying yes to everything, and he slowly drifted away? You didn't scare him. You suffocated the very space where curiosity used to exist. Here's what most don't realize. The male brain is wired for what researchers call intermittent reinforcement. It's the same psychological mechanism behind gambling addiction. It's not the guaranteed response that hooks him. It's the anticipation, the uncertainty, the chase. And don't misunderstand. This isn't about ghosting or disappearing to punish him. That's not mystery. That's insecurity. This is about creating a life that he has to step into, not one he gets handed. It's about cultivating presence with edges, living in such a way that your energy becomes something he earns access to. Think of it like this. Your presence should feel like a favorite song he craves to replay, not white noise he forgets is even playing. So when he texts and you're immersed in your passions, your day, your inner world, you don't abandon that world to respond. You reply when it's real, when your heart is in alignment, when you genuinely have something to give. This isn't selfish, it's sacred. Because when a man senses that your life is full, with mystery, with joy, with standards, he doesn't just want your attention, he begins to revere it. He leans in, he begins to wonder, and wondering is where longing lives. Be like the moon, don't dim, just slip beneath the horizon sometimes and watch how he starts scanning the sky for you. Next, let's dive into something even deeper, the shadow, not to fear it, but to meet it. Here's something Jung said: one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Feel that. Every man you've ever known, the confident ones, the withdrawn ones, the powerful, the emotionally elusive, all of them carry something in the dark. That doesn't make them flawed, it makes them human. Jung called this hidden aspect the shadow, the part we deny, hide, suppress. For many men, the shadow often wears the mask of shame, self-doubt, the fear of being inadequate or weak. It's the dragon curled inside his chest, and too many women, when they see it, try to slay it. They try to rescue him, argue him out of it, love him through it, hoping that if they're just patient or nurturing enough, he'll change. But true healing doesn't come from being saved, it comes from being seen. Let me repeat that. Your power doesn't lie in saving him, it lies in witnessing him. This is where vulnerability becomes your gateway. You want to touch a man's soul? Begin here. Speak your own truth, not a curated one, not a clever, filtered version, a real, raw truth. Say something like, sometimes I feel like I have to shrink who I am just to be accepted, and then let it linger. No explanation, no smoothing it over, just space. That silence, it opens the door, it invites him in. And when he shares something back, maybe it sounds like, I've always been afraid I'm not good enough. You don't rush in with reassurance. You don't say, but you are. You simply hold it and say, I hear that, and I respect your courage to say it. Because when a man finally exposes the thing he's kept buried, and you stay and you see him without trying to fix him, that's when a soul bond begins. That's when he feels safe, not just with you, but in you. The shadow isn't your enemy, it's the place you meet him, not with fear, but with grace. And women who can meet him there, they don't fade from a man's memory, they become part of his inner world. Next, let's look at something most don't talk about, how to speak so your words don't just land, they lead. Love isn't a game, but it absolutely has structure. When you constantly say yes to others, ask yourself, are you unconsciously saying no to yourself? So many women give and give, attention, time, effort, care, as though their love is on clearance. Everything must go. And what do they receive in return? Confusion, silence, ambivalence. Not because they're not worthy, but because they were never taught this one truth. Love without boundaries leads to resentment. It's time to reset that dynamic. Love doesn't mean unlimited access. It means intentional presence. You're not here to be summoned like a delivery service. You're not available on demand. You're not a dispenser of validation. You are a woman of worth, and value carries structure. And no, this isn't about playing mind games. It's not about pretending to be busy or ignoring him to gain power. That's manipulation rooted in fear. What this is about is polarity, the energetic dance between masculine pursuit and feminine presence. It's about being so anchored in yourself that your presence becomes a choice, not a giveaway. Let me share with you something I call the pause principle. It's simple, powerful, and deeply transformative. When you say something meaningful, a boundary, a truth, a vulnerable share, don't rush to explain, don't water it down, don't panic in the silence, just hold it. Let the silence speak for you. Because silence isn't emptiness, it's power, it's magnetism. Most people are terrified of silence. They scramble to fill it, but the woman who trusts her words, who knows the weight they carry, doesn't. She lets her truth breathe. Next time you speak something real, resist the urge to follow up with clarification. Don't send that extra message. Don't apologize for taking up space. Just let it land, because the woman who trusts her own impact doesn't need to perform it. You can rehearse perfect lines. You can memorize phrases from a self-help book, practice seduction techniques, speak affirmations every morning. But if your body is tense with doubt, if your energy carries insecurity, he won't remember your words. He'll feel your incongruence. This is what we call energetic alignment, the match between what you say and what you embody. Real feminine presence isn't loud, it doesn't demand attention, it doesn't chase, it draws, it invites, it radiates. And the only way to access that is by rooting yourself in truth, your truth, not the performance of confidence, but the quiet ownership of your value. Because when your energy matches your message, when your body speaks the same language as your words, he doesn't just hear you, he feels you. And that, more than any clever line or perfect posture, is what makes you unforgettable. Stay. It begins in stillness, even while in motion. Let me illustrate it for you. Two women say the exact same sentence. You and me, we'd be dangerous together. One speaks it with her eyes flickering toward the floor, arms drawn tight around her body, voice trembling, hoping her words land. The other utters it slowly with a gentle smile, chin lifted, shoulders relaxed, her breath steady, eyes holding contact. Same sentence, completely different effect, because one is speaking from self-assurance, the other from a craving to be seen. And whether or not he can explain it, men feel that contrast deep in their gut. They'll just say, "There's something about her." That something is your energy. It's your invisible signature. So pause and ask yourself, what are your eyes saying? Are they whispering, "I trust myself," or pleading, "Please validate me"? What does your voice reveal? Is it grounded or trying too hard? What is your body expressing? Is it whole or is it reaching? He isn't just listening to your words. He's reading your frequency. And here's the truth most people won't tell you. Feminine energy is not about being soft 24/7. It's about being anchored in your own power, the kind of inner stillness that makes an entire room hold its breath. So before you send that text, make that call, or sit down beside him, don't ask yourself, "What should I say?" Instead, ask, "Am I speaking from my truth or from my fear?" Because when you speak from truth, everything shifts. Your body aligns, your tone calms, your presence lands. And he doesn't just hear your words, he feels you. Not just as a woman who knows what to say, but as a woman who cannot be forgotten. Next, I'm going to walk you through exactly when to use your words, because even the most powerful truth loses its fire if spoken at the wrong moment. Timing is sacred. But before that, let me remind you of this. You are not a strategy, you are the shift. The true privilege of your life is becoming who you really are, beneath the layers of performance and protection. And now we arrive full circle. Maybe you came here wondering how to win back a man after you bruised his ego, but something deeper kept you listening. Something inside you recognized this was never solely about him. It was always calling you back to you. Because real power doesn't come from tactics. It flows from transformation. You are not a tactic. You're not a trick. You're not a rehearsed line or a calculated move. You are a woman who changes the atmosphere just by walking into the room. Because she's no longer seeking permission. She's finally embodying her essence. You don't just want his attention. You're craving his devotion. And that begins the exact moment you stop performing to be enough and start living as though you already are. This isn't about control. It's about revelation. It's not about shifting him. It's about unveiling yourself. So here's the truth, raw, profound, and freeing. When a woman meets her own shadow and doesn't flinch, when she holds her mystery without rushing to explain it, when she moves with stillness and breathes with presence, she doesn't just attract love, she becomes it. She no longer asks to be seen. She is the mirror. She doesn't chase being remembered. Her energy stays long after she's walked away. And that man, the one whose pride once recoiled, whose ego once fled, he may not be able to name the shift, but he'll feel it, and he'll come nearer, not because you clung or convinced, but because your grounded presence became the place where he finally saw himself clearly. That's devotion. That's depth. That's the kind of connection that doesn't dissolve after the thrill fades. It deepens in the stillness that follows. Write this on your mirror, on your soul, on your future. You don't need to be unforgettable. You already are. And if these words stirred something in you, if they touched a space deeper than surface-level dating advice, then press that like button and hit subscribe. Not for manipulation, not for gimmicks, but for truth. Because what we're creating here isn't just information, it's a transformation, not a game to play, but a life to embody, a new era of womanhood rooted in knowing, not in needing. So stay grounded, stay radiant, and I'll see you in the next one. Carry this with you. Everything we've uncovered here has never been about chasing love or fixing something broken. It's never been about proving you're worthy. It's about returning home to the power already within you, the kind of energy that doesn't scream for attention but commands presence. The moment you stop trying to perform and start choosing to simply be, that's the moment something real begins to unfold. Because you were never designed to compete for love. You were created to reflect it, to hold a mirror so clear and powerful that the right man doesn't just see you, he sees the best in himself. And that's why he stays. Not because you worked for his affection, but because your energy made him feel alive and safe and seen. And that, my friends, is where real love is born. Not through perfection, not through performance, but through presence. The kind of presence that lingers, that echoes, that imprints. The kind that doesn't ask to be remembered because she is unforgettable. So as you return to your world, take this truth with you. You don't need to calculate your way into love. You don't need clever lines or constant effort. You are the shift, and the man who's truly meant for you won't shrink from your light. He'll rise to meet it. If something inside you softened as you listened, if a part of you woke up, then press that like button and subscribe, not for strategies, but for more truth, for more remembering, for more of the power that sets you free. Until next time, stay rooted, stay luminous, and never forget, the love that's truly yours isn't something you chase. It's something that recognizes you when you finally recognize yourself.